The other day, I was watching one of the coolest interviews that I've probably ever seen when it comes to baseball and just sports in general, and I definitely learned a thing or two, but Tom Glavine used to play hockey. The dude was drafted by the Los Angeles Kings, and then in walks into this rink Mike Soroka, and he's here with us today. Dude, Mike, one of the best pitchers in the big leagues right now, absolute stud, but what an awesome experience that must have been for you. Yourself being a Braves pitcher and shooting some puck with Tom Glavine, Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that was awesome. I actually made the mistake beforehand of asking permission to get on the ice with him. That was shut down pretty quickly, and I learned I should probably ask for forgiveness instead. So yeah, we ended up having to go over to the floor hockey side, but yeah, it was a lot of fun just to kind of talk to him, see him shoot around, and people ask me all the time who's better at hockey, you or Tom, and I was like, it's not even close. Tom was drafted to the NHL. I quit when I was like 14. It's not even close. So it's pretty cool to see him, as an athlete and something else that you wouldn't usually get to see him in. So that was a lot of fun.
Dude, yeah, I literally kind of just sat there just in awe because I was like, damn, I had no idea that Tom Glavine could shoot a puck this well. And then he's seen you, and I'm like, damn, both these dudes got it. Obviously, your Canadian roots, so you got a strong hockey background. But yeah, that was so cool. Whoever got that together was obviously did a great job. And just the both of you, that's a cool experience that you get to take with you forever because that's so unique.
Yeah, definitely. I think, anytime you get a chance to do something different in the line of, interviews and all that kind of stuff and get to spend time with a Hall of Famer and just a good person like Tom. I mean, it is a treasure, and I'm sure it's going to be something I get to look back on and definitely smile with. And I know with the way the internet is, it'll be out there forever. So I don't have to worry about saving it on a tape or anything.
Do you have your jersey hanging up at any rink back at home like he does in the one that you guys were at?
Not in any hockey rinks, no. At least not to my knowledge. That would, like I said, I think he spends quite a bit of time there. I think he plays pickup hockey there and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was pretty funny, but no, not in any hockey rinks.
I know you've been on the Starting Nine pod, so I think at some point you might have to hop on the Spit and Chicklets and dish on some of your hockey knowledge over there.
I would love to. Those guys are hilarious. I send people stuff from their podcast all the time, and I actually ran into Biz in the hotel lobby in Toronto. I'm not sure what he was doing there, but I was there for the Baseball Canada banquet. It was right after my first full rookie season in 19, and a couple of the guys, we were just kind of talking to him in the elevator, and he was kind of just talking to us like we were just some guys trying to play baseball and trying to work our way up. And I think at the time it was probably like Renee Tassoni, Michael Saunders, and myself, and probably a couple other guys that had either been in the big leagues or been there for a long time. And he was pretty astounded when he didn't recognize anybody. Obviously, we didn't expect him to. It was a funny conversation, and like I said, those guys are great. That would be a lot of fun.
Paul Bissonnette, one of the best sports personalities online and now on television a lot. He actually just shot me a follow about 2 weeks ago at the time, at least that we're recording this. So I was kind of pumped when I saw that. So I might have to have him hop on this or at least connect you two.
That would be a lot of fun. I would love that. He's like you said, he is a character, and it's nice when it's not always so seamless for a lot of guys. Like so many guys behind closed doors are so outgoing and so funny, but as soon as the camera's on them, they don't know how to manage that line of what's okay to say and what's shareable, I guess. He does a really, really, really good job of that. And like I said, I think for any TV personality or players looking to get into that, he sets a great example for a lot of that. So again, cool to see.
Yeah, he's definitely the man for it. And dude, you got a lot of great stories yourself. So let's take it back to the very beginning. Obviously, so far, very hockey based, which that's exactly what you were as a little kid. You were a goaltender. You had a net in the basement. Your grandfather got you the pads, man. So hockey was in your blood from the get.
It was, yeah. My dad played, in the CHL in Canada, and then also in the University of Calgary. So obviously right from the get go, I mean, Mika Kiprasov was the huge goalie in Calgary at the time, and everybody wanted to be a goalie. Um, it's just kind of how it was. But I think probably, 3, 4 years into it, and I should say too, if my grandpa hadn't bought me my first set of pads, I don't think my dad ever would have. Because I think from the start he's like, no, you're not gonna like it, you're not gonna like it, And then my grandpa said whatever, and got it going. So, um, those two, I guess we have to thank for my baseball career because had I not been a goalie, I don't think I would have quit hockey. I was always in the basement shooting pucks. Whenever we were playing street hockey, I never wanted to be in net. It just wasn't me at a certain point. Goalie practice kind of got, it just wasn't what I wanted to do. It's skate around my little crease all day. It'd be like wanting to be a pitcher and only being able to do pitcher's fielding practice. That's it. No actual throwing, most of the time. And that got old for me. And I just, shifted interest into baseball.
Okay. And how many siblings did you have growing up? Did you grow up with? I feel like I should know this, but
Yeah, I have two half sisters. So, they're quite a bit older.
would they shoot on you?
No, I'm sure I asked them to play with me quite a few, especially the younger of the two, Stephanie. Her room was in the basement, and on weekends I was kept out of the basement until like 10 in the morning, and that felt like forever to go down. But in 10 a.m. I was down there shooting pucks, and she wasn't very happy about that at the time. But I mean, it's another story.
At least you were saving the 5 a.m. puck shooting sessions for when you were actually at the rink and not at the house. So you were doing her a favor then. But
I was going to say hockey's got a ton of that. I mean, weekends, especially at ice time in Calgary, there's so many teams and so many, only so many rinks, and yeah, we had our fair share of 5, 6 a.m. wake ups, and thank Dad for making those drives.
yeah, I was texting back and forth with Manon Rayom earlier, and she was actually on the show in the first season of this. And obviously, she's the first woman athlete in any of the four major pro sports in North America playing hockey, and she debuted in an exhibition game with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Played a couple games, but she said that like her brothers always needed somebody to shoot on, so she would be that person who would go into net and just save all the shots, or try to save all the shots, and then eventually played on the team with her brother, and one of her brothers ended up playing on the New Jersey Devils, and pretty sure he won a Stanley Cup. But it's just so cool to hear stories about that, like how one became a goalie, how one like really enjoyed. Could be anybody, defense, offense, whatever it is, a forward, I guess in this case with hockey. But so it's cool to hear that. But yeah, so you made that shift from hockey to baseball mainly around that 13, 14-year old range. Was it kind of more of that baseball lifestyle that you really liked? I know that around that time is when things really start to get serious for hockey, but I guess what was the ultimate kind of deciding factor where you decided baseball over hockey?
Yeah, there was a couple, and first and foremost was I just didn't love it as much as I used to. I think that's why you do play multiple sports growing up for many reasons, but one, because you just never know where your interests are going to lie at the point where you're eventually going to have to specialize. And I mean, you said it too. You see it in the southern states with baseball, and I'm sure football too. It's kind of, you got to make a decision at that point, which is crazy when you think about where a 13, 14-year-old is. And I hadn't even grown yet. I was still like 5'5" or something like that. No physicality, just didn't. You're not even a real athlete yet at that point. You can't do what you want to do with your body, and you're having to specialize, and it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, I noticed I started falling behind in the summers. So I'd show up to hockey tryouts every year, in decent shape and everything. It's not like I was out of shape, but I just hadn't gotten better over the summer because I wasn't at camps. I wasn't at, dryland camps for conditioning. And, I was the same goalie that I was in April when the season ended. And because I played baseball all summer, and I just started falling behind, and I knew I had to make a decision. That at that point, it's like, all right, if I want to play hockey, I gotta go here. I got to start getting into it. And with baseball, all it was that I loved it. My dad could drop me off the cages, and I'd hit for hours on hours and hours. It's just something that I love to do. I'd throw into a net. I'd have somebody hit me ground balls. It didn't matter. Um, I could do it forever. And even after school on Fridays, me and a buddy used to head down to the indoor dome and just smoke balls at each other, and play long toss, whatever we wanted to do, and just kind of mess around with it. I still say that's where talent learns to shine, is when there's no pressure, there's no designated practice, but you're doing the reps unknowingly, and you're just going over and over and over again. And that's where you kind of find who you are. That's how I found where I was. And that way, by the time I did grow, I grew into my body, started getting stronger, faster, bigger. Everything just sort of happened. It was like a 2-year span where all of a sudden, I was this guy that was throwing hard all of a sudden. And 2 years prior, I was that 5'5" kid at like 130 pounds that was struggling to hit mid 70s probably. And it goes quickly. And yeah, like I said, it was timing, a lot of it, and being able to make that decision late in Canada. I would have had to make that decision with baseball a lot earlier, and I would have chosen hockey if it was, if I had to choose at 10 or something like that. So it's just timely thing, and I'd say it worked out for the most part so far.
Dude, yeah, no, big time. And by the looks of it, you got that baseball bro vibe and that hockey player look too. So I think no matter what, it probably would have ended up pretty well for you on the baseball or hockey card side of things. But yeah, no. So you mentioned how you were like 5'5", 5'6", and then you had that 8-inch growth spurt, and just in a matter of 2 years. And your boy Anton Joseph, the football coach, he was one of the guys who kind of helped you get bigger, obviously in the weight room, but also too on that kind of like eating type program. So that's when you started to develop, I guess, like you said, like more develop into your body, really fill it out. So when you were working with Anton and all the other guys, kind of like eating a lot and working out a lot, was that all throughout the 4 years in high school?
Anton, we worked with my baseball team for, I think it was 2 off seasons. So the off season where I started to grow basically, and then that next one as well. And again, like, specificity is great, and I'll get into that later, which is what I got into with Chris Osmond a couple years after that, before I was drafted. But at that point, like I said, I grew. I think before I grew, I was actually like 5'6", 160 pounds. So I was getting kind of, I was filling out, getting kind of chunky, and didn't know why. Everything was getting hard to do. I just was slow, didn't feel strong. And then, 1 year, 8 inches, and I lost 20 pounds when I grew 8 inches. And so I was this beanpole going into 10th grade at like 140 pounds at like 6'2". And at that point, the only thing that you need to do to get better is lift and eat, and lift and eat, and lift and eat. And it really, as long as you're lifting safely, obviously, and form was corrected. Anton did a good job of that and teaching us the basics. Was you get strong in these areas, and then you move on after that.
Dude, 6'2", 140.
Yeah, and you think about it, for most 10th graders, it's really not out of the ordinary. But it was just a matter of, that first off season was like 25 pounds, the next off season another 25, then another 25, and then I graduated at about 215, 220. So it's just kind of like the only thing that was really going to help in those 2 years is literally getting bigger, just bigger and stronger. And then I was my off season before my draft. I got to work with Chris Osmond at Canadian Sports Institute, because I was now on the junior national team, and I got to be a carded athlete, which meant I got to work out in that facility, and government in Canada would pay for it.
Ooh, that's
so
cool.
I got to work with him, and he had a baseball background, I think with the Rangers, Dodgers, and maybe another team. And he's actually back in baseball with the Rays. he did an incredible job. When I came to him, I said, look, I've set a good base over the last 2-3 years of lifting. But at this point, the only thing holding me back from getting drafted in a high enough slot to be able to turn down, at the time, was my scholarship to Cal University, was velocity. I was like 88, 91 at the end of the season, which wasn't shabby. It just wasn't going to put me in that category where I could turn down college. So I said, let's go. And he gave me about 4 or 5 months. And then boom, another 4 or 5 miles an hour came out. And that's basically how it happened. Once teams knew and they'd see me pitch, they knew I had good secondaries and I had a feel for pitching. It was just a matter of if the velocity was going to be there. And we worked that out. And like I said, it was pretty quick from there. So worked with him a couple off seasons. Then he actually took a job as the head strength conditioning coach for the Philadelphia Flyers hockey team. And then now back with the Rays. So I'll probably run into him in spring training, which would be kind of fun.
Yeah, dude, big time. Baseball is such a small world. That's one of the best parts about it.
Definitely. And I really just got lucky with, again, timing, being with a guy in Anton that knew the basics really, really well. And he knows much more than that. But at that time, he knew that that's what we needed. We weren't going to get into all these baseball specific trainings when really all we needed to do was squat, deadlift, press, pull, and eat. I was eating just these massive 2,000 calorie shakes, just filled with nothing but like mass gainer, ice cream, egg whites, everything.
This sounds fun, man. If I need to put on 80 pounds, I might have to go down this route, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you can. You look up any of the strongmen. That's how I actually got into all those guys, following guys like Brian Shaw and Eddie Hall, and seeing some of their diets when they're training for World Strongman. And that's kind of the motivation that I kept going with, was like, all right, and you got to keep going. So it's been interesting because it's kind of been a, up and down thing through my career. Was, I tend to kind of go up 10, down 10, up 10, down 10. And every time I obviously go up and down, it leans out. And, I'm a much more solid 220 than I was when I got drafted at about the same weight. But yeah, like I said, it's the start I needed, and it's what basically pushed me forward.
Yeah. Well, we've definitely seen those quads before on your Instagram page. Jesus Christ. Yeah. They're like Saquon Barkley-esque.
No, I don't think even close to that, but I appreciate it. No, that was.
I like the humbleness.
That was a Halloween.
Yeah, the Halloween picture. Yep. Which you posted 2 weeks after. So you got to, no matter what, you got a chance to show them off. I love it.
Yeah. I think that was the point with that one for sure.
All right. So you said something about just what it took to help you move forward. So for everybody who's listening to this and watching this, you growing up in Canada, playing baseball in Canada, like you said, you got to play in domes and stuff like that. But how often are you playing? What's the competition level like? Just for those people who don't know, just kind of give them a little bit insight on that. Because, I mean, you had a great competition when you played against the Braves prospect team when you were traveling with the Canadian 16U Olympic team. So that was like awesome competition. But just in general, just kind of give some insight of just playing baseball up in Canada.
Yeah. So obviously once you're on it's the 18U junior team.
18U. Okay.
I mean, they travel and they play professional teams, and you're getting the competition that high school kids aren't even seeing. So at that point, we were playing much better than most kids would, no matter where you were. But definitely before that, I'd say that the tough part about baseball in Canada, and it's getting better. You start to see a lot of the kids who are like real athletes who's baseball, and the Jays do have a big part in that. They've those couple of years where they made big runs, and honestly, I think they're going to be a really, really good team to come. They got a good young core. They seem to be on the uprise again, and that I'm not sure everybody understands how much they do across the entire country. because I started to see kids the same thing. We're just choosing baseball over hockey, which typically doesn't happen. Most athletes, if you're athletic, you like, getting after it, doesn't matter, boy, girl, they're typically in hockey, especially in Calgary, especially in Alberta, Saskatchewan, some of those middle provinces where like hockey is the lifeblood of everything that goes on. Um, which it was for me. Baseball was just something to do for a month or two in the summer to keep me busy until conditioning camp started. It was literally, like I said, it's 2 months worth out of the year is what it was until Little League, and then the All Star teams like an extra month. So really, it was like 3, maybe 4 months out of the year until I was probably about 12 or 13, and we started doing some spring and fall travel, and we go down to Arizona and play teams and get our absolute doors beat in. Yeah, I remember going down there every time. It literally didn't matter where we were until we got older and a little stronger. But I mean, we'd get crushed. Like there's a few of us that, let's say our little league team, that threw harder, and we were probably in the low 60s, which you see on the Little League World Series. You see kids in the mid 70s. It's like, we were facing kids like that when we go and face teams from California, Arizona, and we'd get absolutely smoked.
Good for you for sticking with it, because that could take a lot of the gas out of a kid who wants to play something.
Yeah, and I think for me though, what it did was actually put me in a spot where I realized how good other people were. I got to see that, and I got to understand that, that humbleness, at least while you're growing up and you're getting better and you're moving forward, you always know that there's somebody out there who's doing something more than you, or there's always better than you.
With everything in life.
Yeah, exactly. And when I got to the point, even when you look back on it, and it's starting not to be so crazy because kids are getting into, weighted ball programs and velocity oriented programs when they're in high school now. So kids are starting to throw harder. But, I was a 16-year-old the first time I hit 90 miles an hour. And when you think about that, that's pretty crazy. If you put that in terms of like what I actually looked like and what my actual capability was on the mound at 16. You just, at that point, it would have been easy for me to say like, stick my chest out and think you're the best. And especially in Calgary, when I said all the other athletes are playing hockey at that point, and you get to kind of move on. And with the junior national team, it brought me to, because of the instructs, we'd go and tour instructs and play all the, it didn't matter. It was the Astros. We play the Astros lots, Braves lots. And again, we'd get it taken to us most of the time because we're now playing professional prospects, and they're all like low, mid, upper 90s, and hitters are stronger, quicker. And there was never a moment in my entire, youth and or professional career where I felt like I was better than my competition. So it was just, I never got comfortable, and I always had something to chase. And I think that's where, it really helped me to get to it in the off season, and, try and get a leg up by actually getting an off season, getting to be bigger, better, stronger by the time spring hit. There's a lot of those things that it just, again, seemed to work out, and I had something to chase.
Dude, let's go. Yeah. Yeah, you got me pumped, man. Like, so many kids just listen to this. Like, I guarantee you, with anything in life, it doesn't even have to be just playing a sport. But if you continue to get beat down nonstop, so many people are so quick just to walk away or give up. And the fact that you stuck with it and took it as a humbling experience and just want to be better, and understanding that there's always going to be somebody out there working, trying to work as hard as you and everything, and just pushing you to be better and to be as great as you can possibly be, is so awesome to hear. And all that paid off, because then here comes the 2015 MLB draft. And I believe you were the 14th high school player taken overall in the draft. So, like, you're a young dude. Like you said, you had committed to Cal. And yeah, here come calling the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, no, that was a crazy day, and I think everybody agrees. Everybody's been through it. Is one of the most stressful days because you don't have any control over it at that point. You basically just got to know that you've thrown to the best of your ability that spring, and what they think of you is what they think of you. And I was lucky to have a good situation in Cal. I loved the coaching staff there at the time, and I had good guidance through Chris Reesma at home, my dad, and the advisor that we chose. I guess you're actually allowed to have an agent now in high school. So at my point, you weren't allowed to call them your agent; it was an advisor. So, basically, they were very comforting in knowing that if we didn't get picked high enough to be able to turn down Cal, I was more than happy going there to get better. I knew what I could do, and I mean, even going back to those youth days of getting beat down, I think my dad played a big role in letting me know that those kids are better than you right now. They're bigger, stronger, but one day you're going to be bigger and stronger, and you'll be better. And that was one of the things that I think kept me through it, was like, all right, I'm going to grow. I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to lift. I'm going to throw faster. I'm just waiting for it to happen. And like I said, you keep putting in the work, and then one day it does happen. And that day is so special. And I'm glad I did it right. I think a lot of kids throw some big parties. And it's fine, I guess, if you're going to take in, like, the team's already, they do pre-draft deals all the time. And if you're going to get taken, then fine, throw your party. But I think a lot of kids end up throwing these big parties. They get all their friends, everybody gets all hyped up, and then they slide down the draft board, and then it would be a nightmare. So I had some people close to me that were there at the time, mainly close family. And then once I got picked, it was like, all right, everybody, come on over. Here we go. But it was a good day. And I guess it's really the start of, the next big chapter of your life.
I love that you went into that, what you did that day and how you celebrated, because that seems to be popping up a lot in conversation, just because it's like, when you're an athlete and you're so successful at so many different points in your life, you have all these different wins, and it's important to celebrate the wins, whether they're small ones or big ones. And this is always, of course, one of the biggest wins that you could ever achieve outside of your MLB debut or getting promoted. Yeah, and just the nerves that go into that day in general, just probably out the roof. So was there any sort of, I want to say relief, but for you just kind of knowing that that the path that you decided to take ended up working out pretty well in your favor?
Oh, absolutely. I think my whole thing was, if I get drafted and I sign out of high school, I want to make sure that it puts me farther along in my career than if I went to college, because you're giving up a good education, and, to be quite honest, years that you can't replicate anywhere else with a college team. I talked to a lot of other guys, and their most fun days they had was traveling in college or even college summer ball. I just, it's an experience that at times I'm like, yeah, I wish I had that. But again, I basically told myself, I said, look, if you get to AA, by the time your next draft year would have rolled around, which would have been 2018, if you're in AA at that point, then you will be farther ahead in your career than you would have if you went to college, because you get drafted that year and you go to short season and then low A the next year, or high A. But at that, and in 2018, I got called up in May. So it was kind of just like, I was in the big leagues, and I knew that I was in the big leagues before I would have got drafted again. So even right there, I was like, yep, this was definitely it. And, all those nights in the minor leagues when, I chose not to go out, I chose not to have the good time, and I needed my 8 hours. And, I can't say that I regret missing any of those moments.